Hello everyone, I'm here with my next video on the sample paper for class 12. This is the third paper, term 1 of the year 2021-22. This is in MCQ pattern. Let us quickly go through the general instructions. The question paper contains three sections. Section A, that is the reading section, has got 18 questions. You have to attempt a total of 14. Section B has got 12 questions. This is the writing section. You have to attempt a total of 10 questions. Section C, that is the literature section, has got 30 questions. You have to attempt a total of 26 questions. All questions carry equal marks. There is no negative marking. So let us start with the reading passage. If you have the OMR sheet and you mark as I read the passage, it will be better for you so that you will be able to check your answers when I read the solution at the end. So listen carefully and let us start with the reading comprehension 1. Question number 1 to 10 are based on the given text. Read the text carefully and answer the questions. It's been said countless times that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. But not many people seem convinced. Some school children and office goers are still leaving home without it, and Weight Watchers are still giving breakfast a miss. I'm not hungry in the morning is the commonest explanation. Even if you don't recognize it as hunger, the body does give out signals that it is low on fuel. For instance, studies of school children aged 9 to 11 show that those who skip breakfast have a slower reaction time and more muscle fatigue in school sports. The average scores are lower on written tests compared to breakfast eaters. To the teacher, such children could look listless, which they may be because they haven't had the protein that really wakes up the brain. After an overnight fast, the blood sugar level drops. Strangely, it takes protein, not sugar, to build it up again. Office workers who skip breakfast are usually big consumers of office tea and coffee, a means of staying alert and suppressing hunger. Adult breakfast skippers may have trouble concentrating on work and show lower work output. They are also likelier to be irritable and impatient at work, clock watching frequently for the lunch hour. Fatigue, anxiety, forgetfulness, confusion, and indecision. All these have been linked to low blood sugar levels, usually caused by hunger. If any of that sounds familiar, maybe what you need is breakfast. Some nutrients like proteins and calcium are better absorbed if they are taken in small quantities several times a day. A packed lunch and a big dinner cannot make up for nutrition missed in the AM. What goes into good breakfast? Protein for mental alertness and carbohydrates to give the body some get up and go. Small amounts of fat and sugar are okay, but just enough to tempt the appetite. So this was the passage. Let us quickly start answering the questions. Question 1. What consequence do adult breakfast skippers not face? A. High work output. B. Low concentration on work. C. High temper. D. Become irritable. Question 2. What happens when you are hungry? A. You feel extremely tired. B. Your blood sugar level drops. C. You feel anxious. D. You are easily confused. Question 3. Find a word in the passage similar in meaning to extreme tiredness. A. Drop. B. Fatigue. C. Low on fuel. D. Signals. Question 4. Find a word in the passage opposite in meaning to comfortable. A. Indecisive. B. Impatient. C. Anxious. D. Irritable. Question 5. Two nutrients that are better absorbed if taken in small quantities are A. Protein. B. Carbohydrates. C. Calcium. D. Sugar. So the options are A. Only B and D. B. Only A and D. C. Only A and C. D. Only A and B. Question 6. The most common explanation for skipping breakfast is A. One must not take a heavy breakfast. B. One must not eat in the morning. C. Who is hungry in the morning? D. Who eats in the morning? Question 7. Office workers drink lots of coffee or tea in order to A. Stay hungry. B. Suppress appetite. C. Stay awake. D. Skip food. Question 8. Children who do not take breakfast have dash reaction time and suffer from dash muscle fatigue. A. Slow less. B. Fast more. C. Faster less. D. Slower more. Question 9. Which is the most important meal of the day? A. Snacks. B. Lunch. C. Dinner. D. Breakfast. Question 10. When blood sugar level drops, one must have A. Proteins. B. Sugars. C. Calcium. D. Vitamins. Let us now read the reading passage 2. Questions 11 to 18 are based on the given text. Read the text carefully and answer the questions. High altitude climbing is still a very dangerous task despite the availability of oxygen masks and other protective equipment which modern climbers take with them. These, of course, are indispensable accessories of climbing, but more important than these is the stamina of the climber, which ultimately determines the success of his attempt. Throughout his journey, death is his constant companion, which he can keep at a distance only with his superb presence of mind. He has to tread every inch of the ground with utmost care, for a false step may not only strike him a fatal blow but also bring disaster to the whole expedition. That is why all expeditions invariably take with them local guides who are experienced climbers and who have a thorough knowledge of the nature of the terrain. Moreover, a huge amount of capital is needed for financing these expeditions, and this is generally provided by governments or rich private organizations. The primary objective of the mountaineering expedition is to get to the top of a high mountain which in the past has withstood all attempts to conquer it. But it should not be presumed that the expedition is a complete failure if it does not reach its destination. Sometimes operations are temporarily suspended because of bad weather, loss of some valuable equipment, or sudden death of a very important member of the party. Every big expedition takes with it men who are interested in botany, geology, and various other branches of science, and these men carry with them equipment for recording their observations concerning the weather, the terrain, and different forms of life in higher altitudes. Other scientists, explorers, and expeditionists utilize the fruit of their observations. Thus, every unsuccessful expedition contributes to the success of later expeditions. The British expedition led by Colonel Hunt would have found their way to Everest much more difficult had not earlier expeditions armed them with useful knowledge about the death-dealing weather which they had to encounter in the vicinity of the summit. To ordinary people, mountaineering need not be a fearful journey in the land of snowstorms where the brave adventurer is always face to face with death. They can scale less ambitious heights, rest their weary limbs under a quiet shelter and feast their eyes on a distant landscape. In the company of friends, they can enjoy an outing near a waterfall or cross into the next valley with haversacks full of provisions dangling from their shoulders. All those who can afford to go to a hill station should seek this innocent pleasure, for it can be had without any risk to life or limb. So now let us start with the questions. Question 11. What is the factor that determines the success of the climbers? A. Availability of protective equipment. B. Height and weight of the climber. C. Availability of oxygen masks. D. The stamina of the climber. Question 12. What precaution should climbers take during their journey? A. Have a subtle presence of mind. B. Avoid causing a disaster. C. Have a good sponsor. D. Take local guides along. Question 13. In what way does a mountaineering expedition contribute to the wealth of knowledge? A. Even a failed expedition contributes to the success of later expeditions. B. Mountaineers carry equipment to record observations about weather and terrain. C. You learn to conquer the biggest hurdles of life. D. People interested in different branches of science accompany climbers. Question 14. How is an ordinary mountaineer's experience different from that of a regular expedition? A. All of these. B. They don't have to worry about finances. C. They don't have to be face to face with death. D. They can savor the landscape from a distance. Question 15. How does a local guide help an expedition? A. They help clean the environment on the way. B. They can help in case of fatalities. C. They know the local language. D. They know about the place they live in. Question 16. Why can an expedition not be a failure? A. Temporarily suspending operations become a necessity at times. B. Recorded observations of incomplete expeditions still stand useful. C. Reaching the destination does not mark its success. D. All of these. Question 17. How are recorded observations of mountaineers useful to others? A. It would otherwise not be possible to know about Everest. B. They give an insider's outlook to mountaineering. C. It prepares future mountaineers for what they are going to deal with. D. They are not of much help as nature keeps evolving. Question 18. What is the primary objective of mountaineering expedition? A. Climb up and down alive. B. Unfurl your flag at the peak. C. Reach to the top. D. Experience nature in its vicinity. Now let us start with the writing section, A part. Question number 19 to 23 are based on the given text. Read the text carefully and answer the questions. Your pet dog Buddy is missing. Answer the following in context with the advertisement regarding this in a newspaper. Question 19. What kind of advertisement should be preferred for this purpose? A. Classified. B. Display. C. None of these. D. Both display and classified. Question 20. Which of the following information is or are required for this advertisement? Number 1. Physical details. Number 2. Details about dog's breed. Number 3. Unique feature of Buddy, if any. Number 4. Buddy's last state, that is, if it was wearing any cloth, belt, leash, etc. So the answers can be A part, 2, 3 and 4, B part, 1, 3 and 4, C part, 1, 2 and 3, D part, all of these. Question 21. Choose the most irrelevant information from the following in context of this advertisement. A. Contact address and phone number. B. Your own details. C. Reward offered. D. Since when, from, where, missing. Question 22. In an advertisement like this, mentioning of dash must be avoided. A. None of these. B. Physical features. C. Character traits. D. Phone number. Question 23. Which of the following words is the ideal to begin this advertisement? A. My favorite pet. B. A pet dog. C. Missing. D. Buddy, my pet. Let us now do writing section B part. Question number 24 to 30 are based on the given text. Read the text carefully and answer the questions. While writing a letter to the editor for creating awareness towards health and hygiene among rural people, points you will take cognizance of would be question 24. What would be the correct way of opening your letter? A. Discussing the recipient if he is hale and hearty. B. Discussing how well the players in the Olympics performed. C. Informing the recipient why you are writing the letter. D. Discussing how good the weather is in your city. Question 25. Things you will not follow while writing the letter. A. A proper introduction. B. Adhere to the format. C. Purpose of writing. D. Beat around the bush. Question 26. In which of the following would you avoid? A. Using formal style. B. Using informal language. C. Complete in all respects. D. Give relevant information. Question 27. What do you aim in your letter? A. Targeting rural people for being a negligent attitude towards sanitation. B. Reprimanding rural people for their careless habit. C. Requesting government to organize health and awareness camp. D. Requesting the editor to write an article about this issue. Question 28. Which of the following will your letter feature? A. All of these. B. Formal language. C. Stick to the point. D. Relevant content. Question 29. Points that you can use in your letter. A. All of these. B. Construction of personal toilet. C. Frequent health checkups. D. Issue of open defecation. Question 30. Which part of the letter will include the address and date? A. Intro. B. Heading. C. Body. D. Postscript. Now let us start with the third section, that is the literature section. Question number 31 to 35 are based on the given text. Read the text carefully and answer the questions. I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Not till then, when I had got a little over my fright, did I see our teacher had on his beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt, and the little black silk cap all embroidered, that he never wore except on inspection and prize days. Besides, the whole school seemed so strange and solemn. But the thing that surprised me most was to see on back benches that were always empty the village people sitting quietly like ourselves. This was the extract. Now let us see the questions. Question 31. How did the whole school seem? A. All of these. B. Solemn. C. Strange. D. Quiet. Question 32. Which subject did the teacher profess? A. Spanish. B. French. C. English. D. German. Question 33. What does the word solemn mean? A. Grave. B. All of these. C. Sober. D. Sedate. Question 34. Who is the teacher? A. Hauser. B. Alfonso Dode. C. M. Hemmel. D. France. Question 35. Why was he dressed in his formals? A. For it was his last lesson in French. B. For he had to attend a wedding. C. For he had to juggle an international school competition. D. For he had to attend an award ceremony. Question number 36 to 40 are based on the given text. Read the text carefully and answer the questions. The next I remember I was lying on my stomach beside the pool vomiting. The chap that threw me in was saying, but I was only fooling. Someone said the kid nearly died. Be all right now, let's carry him to the locker room. Several hours later I walked home. I was weak and trembling. I shook and cried when I lay on my bed. Question 36. The author was trembling with A. Fear, B. Anger, C. All of these, D. Joy. Question 37. Where was the author lying? A. Beside the pool, B. Beside the sea, C. On the beach, D. On the bench. Question 38. Why was the author vomiting? A. Because he nearly died, B. None of these, C. Because of drowning inside the pool, D. Because the chap threw him in water. Question 39. Where was author carried to? A. Hospital, B. Home, C. Swimming pool, D. Locker room. Question 40. Which word from the following is the antonym of stabilize? A. Trembling, B. Weak, C. Shook, D. Chap. Question number 41 to 45 are based on the given text. Read the text carefully and answer the questions. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, doze, open-mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked, but soon put that thought away. Question 41. Choose the option that displays the same literary device as in the given lines of the extract. Her face ashen like that of a corpse. Option A. Just as I had this thought she appeared, and B part. I like to think aloud when. C part. I think like everyone else who. D part. My thoughts were as heavy as lead that evening when. Question 42. What thought did she put away? A. She put away her fear that her mother would live long. B. She put away her fear that her mother would not live long. C. None of these. D. She put away her fear of travel. Question 43. Choose the option that best applies to the given extract. A. A conversation. 2. An argument. 3. A piece of advice. 4. A strategy. 5. A recollection. 6. A suggestion. The answers can be A. Only 1, B. 1, 3 and 6, C. 2, 4 and 5, D. Only 5. Question 44. Choose the book title that perfectly describes the condition of poet's mother. Title 1. You Are Only Old Once by Dr. C.S. Title 2. The Gift of Years by Joan Christer. Title 3. Somewhere Towards the End by Diana Athill. Title 4. The Book You Wish Your Parents Had Read by Philippa Ferry. The answers can be A. Title 1, B. Title 3, C. Title 4, D. Title 2. Question 45. Assertion. The poet wards off the thought of her mother getting old quickly. Reason. The poet didn't want to confront the inevitability of fate that was to dawn upon her mother. The options, the correct ones can be assertion can be inferred but reason cannot be inferred. B. Assertion cannot be inferred but reason can be inferred. C. Both assertion and reason can be inferred. D. Both assertion and reason cannot be inferred. Question number 46 to 50 are based on the given text. Read the text carefully and answer the questions. The man moaned with pain in his stupor, but he did not awaken. The best thing that we could do would be to put him back in the sea, Sadao said, answering himself. Now that the bleeding was stopped for the moment, he stood up and dusted the sand from his hands. Yes, undoubtedly, what would be the best? Hannah said steadily, but she continued to stare down at the motionless man. If we sheltered a white man in our house, we should be arrested, and if we turned him over as a prisoner, he would certainly die, Sadao said. The kindest thing would be to put him back into the sea, Hannah said. But neither of them moved. They were staring with curious repulsion upon the inert figure. Question 46. Find the antonym of opposite. A. Disgust. B. Odium. C. None of these. D. Repulsion. Question 47. Choose the correct option with reference to two statements given below. Statement 1. Sadao and Hannah cared about Soldier, but were worried about consequences of being considerate. Statement 2. Sadao and Hannah wanted to shirk their responsibilities of looking after an injured soldier who could be an American. A. Both statement 1 and 2 are false. B. Statement 1 is true but statement 2 is false. C. Statement 1 is false but statement 2 is true. D. Both statement 1 and statement 2 are true. Question 48. In which of the following options can the underlined words not be replaced with stupor? A. Seeing him in a daze, the lawyer decided not to place him in the witness box. B. She hung up the phone feeling as though she had woken up from a slumber. C. The manager complained about the employee's sluggishness. D. He seemed to be in a trance when the doctor called upon him last week. Question 49. Pick the option that best describes Sadao and Hannah in the passage. A. Sadao prudent, Hannah suspicious. B. Sadao daring, Hannah prudent. C. Sadao wary, Hannah daring. D. Sadao scrupulous, Hannah wary. Question 50. Pick the idiom that best describes a situation in which Sadao and Hannah were in. A. To be in hot water. B. To be like a fish out of water. C. Like water off the duck's back. D. To be dead in the water. Question 51. What does hurt hands refer to in the poem Keeping Quiet? A. Unfulfilled desires. B. Growing greed of man. C. growing insensitivity of man towards pain. D. Growing needs of the man. Question 52. What does Mukesh aim to become when he grows up? A. Driver. B. Pilot. C. Motor mechanic. D. Bangle maker. Question 53. What is the metaphorical concept of garbage for the people of Simapuri in the prose Lost Spring? A. Garbage for them is equal to gold. B. Garbage is dust for them. C. Garbage has no meaning for them. D. Garbage is the mode of education for them. Question 54. How deep was the other side of YMCA pool where William had the misadventure in the text Deep Water? A. 99 feet. B. 9 feet. C. 90 feet. D. 19 feet. Question 55. Were all their futures painted with a fork? Whose future is painted with a fork? A. The city inspectors. B. Children from affluent class. C. The governors. D. Slum children. Question 56. Who is the author of the prose The Third Level? A. Susan Hill. B. Colin Dexter. C. Jack Finney. D. John Updike. Question 57. In the prose The Third Level, which year did Charlie find himself in which he was at the third level, when he was at the third level? A. 1848. B. 1984. C. 1894. D. 1948. Question 58. What does the phrase "struck with death" refer to in the poem Keeping Quiet? A. Association with death. B. Death due to truck accident. C. Have a truck. D. To ride a truck. Question 59. What did Dr. Sadao do to get rid of the man? A. By throwing the American into ocean. B. By making complaint against American. C. By secretly sending the American to an isolated island with essential things. D. By killing the American. Question 60. Why do you think the poet has used the expression sour cream to describe the classroom walls? A. Because he liked the color. B. The poet used this expression to show the ugliness in the classroom. C. Because the classroom was painted light yellow. D. The poet has used the expression to show the decaying aspect. That was the paper. If you have done, let us quickly see the solution. Let me read the solution of the reading part. Answer 1. A. High work output. 2. B. Your blood sugar level drops. 3. B. Fatigue. 4. C. Anxious. 5. C. Only A and C. Question 6. Answer is C. Who is hungry in the morning. 7. B. Suppress appetite. 8. D. Slower, more. 9th D. Breakfast. 10th A. Proteins. 11th D. The stamina of the climber. 12th A. Have a subtle presence of mind. 13B. Mountaineers carry equipment to record observation about weather and terrain. 14A. All of these. 15D. They know about the place they live in. 16D. All of these. 17B. They give an insider's outlook to the mountaineering. 18C. Reach to the top. Solution to the writing section. 19A. Classified. 20A. 2, 3 and 4. 21B. Your own details. 22C. Character traits. 23C. Missing. 24C. Informing the recipient why you are writing the letter. 25D. Beat around the bush. 26B. Using informal language. 27C. Requesting government to organize health and awareness camp. 28A. All of these. 29. All of these. 30B. Heading. Answer to literature part. 31A. All of these. 32B, French. 33A, grave. 34C, MML. 35A, for it was his last lesson in French. 36A, fear. 37A, beside the pool. 38C, because of drowning inside the pool. 39D, locker room. 40A, trembling. 41D, my thoughts were as heavy as lead that evening when. 42B, she put away her fear and her mother would not live long. Question 43. The answer is B, only 5. 44B, title 3. 45C, both assertion and reason can be inferred. 46D, repulsion. 47B, statement 1 is true but statement 2 is false. 48C, the manager complained about the employee's sluggishness. 49A, Sadao prudent, Henna suspicious. 50A, to be in hot water. Now let us see the answers 51 to 60. 51, the answer is C, growing insensitivity of man towards pain. In this world of cutthroat competition, human beings tend to become insensitive towards the pain they are induced within process of earning and making their lives more comfortable. The men who gather salt ignore their the hurt palms, for they are totally engrossed in making life comfortable for themselves and their families. So the answer is C, growing insensitivity of man towards pain. 52C, motor mechanic. Mukesh insists on being his own master and he has seen cars on the roads of Firozabad. He is fascinated by cars. He wants to do something different from his father and forefathers, and so he wants to become a motor mechanic. Question 53A, garbage for them is equal to gold. The people of Simapuri were squatters who came from Bangladesh in 1971 with no stable job at hand and no shelter for their families. They struggled to survive by picking rags from the garbage. It was their livelihood, hence garbage for them was as valuable as gold, which gave them food and shelter. 54, the answer is 9 feet. The deeper end of the pool was 9 feet deep while the other end was 2 to 3 feet deep. The pool had a gradual drop. Answer 55 is D, slum children. The children lived in pathetic conditions and they were exhausted and burdened by their circumstances. Their life was full of despair and dejection. The poet highlighted that future of these children are bleak due to lack of opportunities and knowledge. 56C, Jack Finney. 57C, 1894, Charlie glanced at the stack of newspapers, The World, and he could see the date that it was dated June 11, 1894. 58A, Association with Death. The poet craftily focused on the inevitability of death, and at the same time, he suggested that he did not wish to have any association or interaction with death. Question 59C. By secretly sending the American to an isolated island with essential things. The doctor, that is Dr. Sadao, decided to get rid of the American boy by secretly sending him to an isolated island. He gave him the food, water, clothes, blanket that would be required and also the flashlight. Question 60. The answer is D. The poet has used his expression to show the decaying aspect. The color of sour cream is off-white. The poet has used this expression to suggest the decaying aspect. The deterioration in the color of the classroom wall symbolized the pathetic condition of the lives of the scholars, the children of the slum areas, the slum school. So this was the solution to the whole paper. I hope you must have scored well. Thank you for always being with me. If you are a newcomer, please subscribe my channel, share, like, and all the best for your exams.